Hi, folks. Steve Urban here, host of the Riderflex podcast and founder and CEO of our day job recruiting firm, Riderflex. We hope you enjoy this episode. And as a reminder, please subscribe to the podcast for updates and news. If you haven't already, check out the series of books we've published on hiring, interviewing, and overall career advice titled The Riderflex Guide. And finally, today's episode is brought to you by Class 6 Partners. Are you ready to sell your business or raise capital? Class 6 Partners guides you through the entire process, from business optimization to securing the perfect deal. With over $3 billion in transactions, they turn your business dreams into reality. Visit class6partners.com to start your journey today. Thad, thank you so much for being on the Riderflex show. Appreciate it.
Hey, we're happy to be here, Steve. Thank you so much for the invite.
Are you in Austin?
I am, yes, and it's in well, it's been the hundreds for the last week or so. So I think it's going to be in the 90s today. So here we are. We're in the heat of Austin.
Yeah. Even though it's mid-September, we're recording this on September 19th. Yeah, so I lived in Austin from, let's see, I think it was 97 to 2000, somewhere about 3 years in there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's hot in the summer, bro. It's hot.
It is hot. Last year was especially hot, and this year was actually was great. But last year and the year before last, very hot. But we have a lot of days of sun, and
Yep.
we enjoy the days of sun when we have it, especially in the winter. So,
October,
but
November,
you
October,
left,
November are great, right? October, November.
yeah,
Yeah.
you left before the boom. It sounds like
I
now we're in
did.
this
Yeah.
boom in the
Yeah.
last 15 years. So,
I mean, I thought it was busy when I was there, but yeah, I've, from what I've heard, and I lived, let's see, west of town, going out to Marble Falls and a little
oh
further
wow.
west than that. And between Austin and Marble Falls for a while there, there wasn't really anything there. I'm guessing all that's built up now.
All that's built out all the way down to Spicewood 71, that entire corridor. Beautiful area covered with developments now, of course. So
Yeah.
not as beautiful, but
Yeah.
still pretty amazing and a great place to live and balance
There was
life and
a
work.
honky tonk dance floor way out west, even further than Marble Falls. I think it was Kingsland or Burnett or something, maybe. Does
Yeah,
that sound right? Any of that sound right?
that sounds right. We're probably around the lakes.
Yeah, around the lakes
Yeah,
over there. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. There was a bar there. I seriously doubt it. It was 25 years ago, so I doubt it's still there. But uh, anyway, that's how I met my wife, two-stepping on the dance floor out there. That's
Oh
how,
wow! Congratulations!
yeah, yeah. That's how we met a long time.
Congratulations.
That's my tie to Austin.
Well,
Anyway,
that's great.
how about you? Where'd you grow up?
Originally in Northern Virginia, outside of Northern Virginia on the Chesapeake Bay,
Okay.
hail from that area. Probably about an hour and 15, hour 20 um, north of Williamsburg, Virginia.
Okay.
Again on the Chesapeake Bay, and then moved to, I would say, probably the southern outskirts of Northern Virginia, Fredericksburg, Virginia, is a good way
I
to
know where
kind of think about it.
Fredericksburg is. Yeah.
Yes, so I lived there, attended university, and then that's where I first experienced online recruiting when Monster was the powerhouse and
Monster.
Career Builder, and Career Builder,
Yeah, career
of course,
builder.
was a
Yeah, that's right.
powerhouse.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was in the 2000s, and so that was the first kind of move. And I remember when Yahoo announced, a lot of people have forgotten this. I remember when Yahoo announced they were buying Hot Jobs, but that was at the same time that Monster was trying to buy Hot Jobs for the first time and acquiring Hot Jobs. And so I've been around and seen,
Oh man, you've
all the
yeah,
changes in online
yeah.
advertising and, the powerhouse that Indeed's become over the last 10, 12 years. And
You look like you're 19. What would you start in the business when you're 12? You look super
thank
young.
you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. Well, I was in college at the time, and like most college students, I needed some beer money, and I started working for a company, and
Uh,
that company was built a kind of a resume matching product
yeah.
to match executives with third party recruiters, and which was needed, right? Because how do you get in mass matched to third party recruiters? This was probably like in 1999, 98.
How old were you right
And
there? How old are you right there?
oh
Ten?
gosh,
Nine?
well, that company was started in 98, 99, but in
Oh, okay.
2002, 2001,
You were
uh,
19, 20, something like that.
19. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Were you
exactly.
living on campus, living at home, living with some friends? Where were you living?
I was living off campus at the time. So I was off campus.
Okay.
I moved off campus, and
Okay.
I was balancing working almost full time and attending university full time,
Which is not
and
easy to do. Not easy
which is
to
not
do.
easy to do, but hard work, man. You got to do it, and you learn from it. And that was very important in our family.
Well,
Coming from,
speaking of family, what'd your folks do?
so my father was a sawmill foreman. My
Okay.
mom, a public school elementary teacher. So, a lot of
Wow.
focus
Wow.
around education, a lot of focus on hard work, all the things that
That,
are important
that
today.
sounds like an episode out of Little House on the Prairie. Sawmill manager, school
That's
teacher.
you're probably about right. Yeah, it's
Was
probably
it
about
something
right.
like that? Was it kind of like, okay, all right. Did you have siblings?
Grandfather ran the family farm for many
Oh,
years.
wow. All right.
Mom was the county um, elementary teacher,
Wow.
and
Okay. Cool.
family didn't leave the land for hundreds of years or something like that.
Wow.
So
Wow. Did you have siblings?
yeah, I don't. I'm an only child. Yeah,
Were you a good kid, bad kid, rebel, somewhere in the middle?
I would. I went through phases. So I went through phases where at first, probably when so interestingly enough, my mom was my elementary teacher for
Okay.
fourth and fifth grades.
Okay.
And so it was kind of interesting in that time period when she was my teacher, is when I was probably more, I'm trying to think how to say it, probably more
Te-
risky
te-
in
testing the boundaries.
testing the boundaries, right? I was definitely testing the boundaries in fourth and fifth grade. And I think because of what happened in fourth and fifth grade by testing the boundaries, that probably set me on the right course for
Okay.
later in life, because I didn't
Okay.
test my boundaries,
Okay.
in other life experiences.
Yeah. Okay. How about any backpacking trips across the country or anything like that? No.
Um,
No.
I have
Okay.
no backpacking trips. No, no. I wish,
All right.
I did have a mentor that said when I graduated from university that I should work on a cruise ship to meet a lot of people, and to
Okay.
explore. And it's that time in life where you should do that. But I didn't do that. So
Ah.
I didn't take the advice. But interesting advice in when you're in that kind of period of time where you're, looking
Okay.
for your next step in life and career. What do you do? And so I thought that
Speaking
was
of
interesting
speaking of
advice.
looking to see what you were going to do, you majored in economics, but you don't strike me as a number crunching guy at all. You got super high EQ. So what how did you were you going to be an accountant? Like what was your plan with that economics degree?
No, no. It's funny. My plan was actually to be a pharmacist,
Pharmacist.
and
Why'd you okay.
pharmacist.
All right.
So
All
I
right.
worked through the plan, right? So when I was in high school, I worked through high school as well, starting when I
Okay.
was 15.
All right.
And on the weekends, I worked for
Mm,
a local pharmacy.
got
So I was there, and then I was a
it.
farm tech, and I was majoring in chemistry because I wanted to go
I see.
pre-pharmacy and then
Okay.
transfer into pharmacy school.
All right.
And I hit organic chemistry,
And then
and
you're
like a
like,
lot of us, and it wasn't for me. I didn't excel, needless to say, but I still liked data, and I liked uh, understanding. But what I loved about economics is, um, you know, you can leverage data to support your
decisions,
views
your
and
views, whatever.
decisions and
Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about it, is I loved the
Okay.
theory behind it, and also the connection to data. So
Okay.
that was and I had a really great professor that was very excited about economics and how important it was, of course, to
I
society.
see.
And that was
I see.
probably the catalyst.
Okay. Before we get back into your career, how about you now? Family? What's your social? What talk to me?
Fa- yeah, family. I've got two amazing kids, 9
Okay.
and 10, and of course, amazing wife. And we reside here in Austin, and it's
What's
been
your wife do?
she's at home, and she's the
Captain.
CEO of the Price household,
I love it.
and
Yeah, that's a tough job.
she's the captain of the ship. So
Very good. Now 9 and 11. Boy, you're right, man. You're wrapping up the golden era. It's right before the shit hits the fan. Right before it gets
that's
crazy.
what I've heard. My daughter is now into volleyball, and we went to her first game this week, and she made the winning point. I was so proud.
Sweet.
And it's their first, my daughter's first foray into sports that she's actually interested in. Because you go through these phases where you try soccer and you try these sports, like, are you really interested? But she's actually really interested in it. And so it's great to be able to experience that. So you're right, we are in the golden age. It's a great age for them to explore, find
Five to
out,
11.
what they like and what they don't like.
5 to 11 is magical. After that, it could go either way.
Yes. Yes.
So
That's
we'll
right.
see. Yeah, yeah. If you need once they hit the teenager phase and it gets wild, you can call me. I'll give you some tips.
I'll
Been
have to
through it all.
do that. I'm sure I'll need it.
We had four. They're all grown, but I have two granddaughters. But
Great.
yeah, I mean, it's hit or miss. Some of them are great. Some of them are, go crazy. And usually they come back around though, which is nice. They kind of
That's good.
disappear. They disappear for a little bit, meaning, they don't want anything to do with you, but then they kind of come back around. It's weird. So
Hmm.
anyway, all right. So thank you for sharing that about the family. Okay, very good. All right. So you're early on, you're in the talent stuff early, like way early. All right. Yeah. Walk
Yeah.
us through some of your career. Go for it.
Yeah. So early on, started in customer service when I was at university and started working for this internet company in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Um, he created this matching product for headhunters and job seekers, and mostly executive job seekers, and
Okay.
built up a pretty big database of headhunters. And at that time, in I guess 2001, 2002, 2003, kind of online recruiting was just starting
Was this
and trying to find
job.com?
its way.
Was
This was
this job?
job.com.
Okay.
Yeah, just trying to find its way. And so the owner had the opportunity to purchase the job.com domain name in, I believe, 2001.
What do you
And the
pay
whole
for it?
idea was, oh, I can't disclose that, but that was in the that was in
Come on,
the
Dad. Come on,
that was in
Dad.
the big days of, and even still today, right? Domains are like real estate,
Oh
right?
yeah,
If
yeah,
you
yeah.
own, if
Totally.
you own it, you can
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can make it.
yeah.
But he purchased it, and the whole idea was he had this list of recruiters and headhunters that were using this matching service for free. Um, and so, could I get those headhunters and recruiters to pay to post jobs and to search a resume database? Right, simple business model of a job board and simple business. And so,
But at that time, Monster was already there.
Monster was
Career Builder
there.
was career. Okay. All right.
You
Yeah.
probably remember headhunter.net was there, right? A
I
lot
don't
of people
remember
don't.
that one, but okay. Yeah.
Headhunter.net was actually the job search engine of Yahoo. And, that was like and then Career Builder bought Headhunter.net. And that's when Yahoo bought Hot Jobs. So it was like this, but everyone was chasing
Hot
employment
jobs.
classifieds.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
everyone was chasing employment classifieds.
Okay.
So when I was in college, the founder was like, "Hey, we need someone to handle customer service." And I said, "Great, I'd love to I'd love to make some extra, have a flexible schedule, make some extra money while I'm in college, and then go from there." And then the business began to grow, and he said, "Okay, could you manage customer service? Could you recruit some of your friends
Sure.
in college to come and help out with our customer service needs?" I said, "Sure, absolutely." So then manage customer service, and then when I graduated, I said, "Hey, I want to go into banking." and started looking at that. And he was like, "Why do you want to do that?" And I said, "Well, I really like to build partnerships. I like, although I've spent all my time in service, and service is important for revenue. I'd really like to, I'd like to break into sales and think about growing revenue through relationships and through
He
partnerships
was like,
and through
man,
more of a
that's what
sales."
he's like, that's what you're doing already. He's like, what are you talking about?
Exactly. He
That's what we're
said,
doing
"Why don't
here.
we just?" He said, why don't you start selling?" Right. So then I started selling, and so then I started selling. So, you
Okay.
know, customer service rep, customer service manager, started selling, then started going to business development in more
Cool.
of
All
the
right.
partnership side, right? More of
All
the
right.
partnership
Yep.
side of business development. And then just continue to grow there with that company, that founder owned business, and learn about product and operations and what it takes, and what it takes to
Great.
really run a business.
Great experience,
Yeah,
because you're right there next to the founder. You're getting to see P&Ls. You're getting to dive into all the heavy stuff there, right? That's great. Great experience.
exactly. Great experience, right? And that would be part of some career advice that I would give a lot of professionals today. Is I think, how what I share with our team is that, you know, a lot of folks are very impatient in moving up in their career,
Mhm.
right? They're very impatient.
Agreed.
And it's been my experience in great careers, in order to build a great career, that you should be patient as long as there are rewards and there are expectations that are being set along the way. And what I mean by that is, I think too many people will jump for,
Mhm.
a 10% raise or 12% raise, and start at the bottom again in earning,
Yeah.
in really earning kind of that trust and loyalty and um, favor to an extent with leaders and executives, when you could hunker down, find a company that's great for you, that you find a great fit, work really hard, and be patient with the right rewards coming. And I think that we, in too many times in careers, we have such a short-term view. And that's one of the reasons why, I've worked for two companies in my career. And it's because of those companies that I've worked with. Great companies. I worked really hard, but each step I was rewarded along the way. And I was patient in knowing that if I found a great company that recognized my contributions, I could continue to grow my career. And I've been lucky in that I did find that. Now, the flip side is if you don't find that, if you don't find a company that provides recognition, that doesn't reward you for your contributions, then you go find that job, increasing your salary a bit, and finding a home. But I think in too many cases, we make kind of quick decisions around the short-term implications and not the long-term implications for a career.
Great advice, Thad. Yeah, I'll just emphasize a couple of points there. 10%, 10% raise. I mean, really, just do the math. After taxes, after everything, like, you're really going to blow up your situation for $150 more a month or something. I mean, like, really just do the math, right? I mean, it's most of the time it's not worth it. If somebody's going to give you a 20% raise, okay, all right. Now we're getting close to where, all right, this is actually going to make a difference. you know, um, I always give the analogy, like, okay, if the raise is going to allow you to get Netflix subscription that you've never had, that's not going to change your life. If the raise is going to allow you to move into a larger home, okay, that's a good consideration. Yeah, the people just jump too often for the small raise. The other thing I wanted to just highlight there, which was great for your career, if you can be at the big boy and girl table with the P&Ls, the cash flow, the operating agreement, the cap table, investors, transactional stuff, buy, sell companies, legal stuff, big time HR stuff, all of the C-level, C-suite activities, even if it's a small company, there's just so much learning in there. And, as a recruiter, I will interview people that have worked for Fortune 500 companies, and they'll be at like the director level or whatever. And they'll say, well, I was over $300 million budget. And I'm like, yeah, you were, but you're not. The CEO that was in charge of a $10 million company probably knows more about overall business than you do. So I like that. I like the fact that you had all of that early in your career. Great experience. What happened? Did they sell? Did you get recruited away? What happened?
Great question. So our founder, that business, great business, was able to grow pretty substantially for a number of years. I met our founder here, so only worked for founder owned businesses,
Yeah.
privately held businesses.
Yeah.
Our founder here, Bruce,
How'd
is a
how'd you meet him?
technologist.
Conference or something?
Yeah, so I was actually a customer of his,
Oh, I see.
and he was in a kind of a startup phase of the business, and he's a technologist, right? He's a terrific engineer, and his sales leader that he hired, and I, of course, friends, and had done business for many years, and she connected us, and we started talking about how we could think about job searching differently, and from that perspective, it was just a great conversation about investing in engineering, investing in technology,
Okay.
for the long term and the long haul. And that was really appealing to me, being an innovator at heart, and how we could really think about things. And at this time, when I was a customer of Talroo, I was seeing like amazing results compared to Indeed. And I was in charge of marketing and media and partnerships and at job.com. And so I saw that I was, generating candidates from Indeed, and I was generating candidates from Talroo. And I said, hey, this is similar, which doesn't usually happen, right? Because you've got so much. If you think about Indeed's reach and Indeed's quality, it's so high. And Talroo was very similar, not at the scale, of course, but very similar. And I said, hey,
Okay. All right.
there's something happening here, right? There could be something very big here.
Okay.
And so I was really fascinated and intrigued, and so started conversations. And
All right.
founder said, hey, would love you to help us with product. You've been in the industry a while, you know what customers want and what customers like, and can have those conversations, and you've done all these other things. So would you like to focus on product and technology? And I said, well, that's interesting, because that's one of the things I didn't have experience, and I didn't have experience managing engineers and managing a roadmap or anything like that. I was more on the business side. And I said, yeah, I love that experience. And our founder said something interesting to me. Yeah, I said, I'm really nervous about this. I'd never managed, engineers before. And I said, and I'm not one that's going to architect a system. And he goes, well, I know that, Thad. And I said, he goes, but you know what the customers want, and you know what needs to be done.
That's the key.
And he said, that's the key. That's the only thing I'm looking for. And he said something very interesting to me. He goes, you know what? He goes, one of the things that people miss in thinking about engineering and thinking about product-led growth, and companies that really embrace innovation, is that business is as mysterious to engineers as engineering is as mysterious to business leaders.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just like a great
Good
statement,
one.
right? Because there's mutual respect when a business leader is working with engineers, and there's mutual respect when engineers are working
Or
with
there should
business
be.
leaders.
There
There
should
should
be.
be.
If there's not,
Yeah.
yeah, you got the wrong people in the wrong chairs. But
Yeah.
yeah, engineers. I mean, they don't want to talk to customers. They don't want to talk to anybody most of the time.
Yeah.
They barely want to talk to the product manager.
Yes. Yes.
Uh,
Yes. So
that's a great
so
experience for you. Okay, really good. That's really great. Okay, but then you're kicking ass. Your people skills are great. Your organization skills are great. Your CEO is looking at you, going, "Okay, I gotta give this kid more scope of responsibility here." And you start moving up.
start moving up, and he says, all right, now build the products you need, because most of our customers originally, and still today, are relationships with job boards that advertise with us, right?
Okay.
So most of the top job boards advertise us, but the products that a direct employer needs is very different than the products that a job board needs to be successful at driving candidates to fulfill their jobs, or even a staffing firm, right? The product portfolio is very different. And he said, okay, well, I'm going to step up to chairman. Now's your chance. Build a sales team, build the products that we need to go and build a direct product to go after um,
Right.
companies. And so we built those products, built sales team,
Was he
and
the
just
C? Was he
continued to.
technically the CEO before?
Yes.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
So I led product and technology. He was the CEO, and then he stepped up to chairman,
Yeah. Great.
and I stepped into the role, and then hired a team a few times. Our business, like many recruiting business, is very cyclical.
Yeah.
And you have the highs and you have the lows in those
Of
types of
course, man.
businesses.
Of course. What are two or three things you want to share once you made it to the C suite? You were like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So, the first thing I would say is, and, it may be overused in a lot of conversations today. But it's something that I bring up a lot in conversations, especially when you think about leadership and you think about mid-level management and, uh, time honored view of trust but verify. And I think that is something as leaders we can all do, because we all need to ensure that we're moving the ball forward, that we're moving the ship in the right direction.
Yeah.
And, we should trust, and trust is earned. But we've also got to verify
You
that,
have to. Yeah.
things are working the way we think they're working. Right. And so that's probably the first thing. The second thing is, at first I was thinking of everyone's, thinking about, when you're first in the role, you're like, all right, I got to think big picture. What are we going to do? And how are we going to change the world? And what are all these things that we need to do? And how do all these departments kind of, really focus our energy in our business, and try to pop out of those conversations and to really pop up into kind of the big picture thinking. And what I learned is that, especially at our size business and any business, is that you got to get into the details to figure out how to get it, what the big picture looks like. And if you
Mm,
don't get into the details, you'll never figure out what the big picture looks like. And you'll
mm.
never be able to figure out how to write the course or how to ensure that you're moving things forward the way you should. And I think that was the biggest thing is, it's not, uh, you have to do both. Yes, you need to think big picture and understand and try to figure out how, you know, where the puck's going and how you're going to be successful in your industry. But then also the key is to get in the details to figure that out. And if you don't get in the details across every department to figure that out, then you're not going to be successful in a leadership role. And I think that was probably one of the big aha moments that I've had over the years in the role.
How do you train yourself to jump from strategy to tactical? And how do you what kind of advice would you give new CEOs on monitoring that switch? Because in
Yeah.
a small to medium sized company, definitely the CEO is jumping from the weeds to the big picture or from strategy to tactical. Now,
Yeah.
Fortune 500, okay, those CEOs are playing at strategy 99% of the time, but small to
Yeah.
medium companies, they're going back and forth, right? Um, how do you monitor yourself there, or what advice would you give?
I would say that first treat it as a training opportunity. So if we think about it, I think we try to triage, we try to jump in and we try to triage, and we
Mm,
don't set the expectation of like, we
mm,
just try to be heroes, right? We try to fix the problem that's happening right now. But there's a way to do that in more of a training aspect
mm,
that I think we could be more effective at leaders, because we're getting it out of our mind and into the mind of others that you think can execute and can use this as a very kind of learning experience. So that's, I would say, find a group of people that you think are maybe you haven't recognized them yet, or maybe you have, but find a group of people that you think are are aligned well with the company.
Mm.
And when you start jumping into these kind of tactical, experiences, and you're trying to triage a problem, bring them in and treat it as more of a teaching moment, and educate them on the why behind why you're doing this, and how we can ensure that we're going to have a better um, a better response going forward.
How about the stress and loneliness of the position? Let's talk about that. You know, unless you've lived it, unless you've sat in the captain's chair, it's just very difficult to understand what the life is like. I mean, you can read all the books you want, listen to all the podcasts you want, but until you're in the CEO chair, it's very hard to understand the stress levels and the loneliness of that job. The stress of just making sure the company is performing, the loneliness meaning you can't really talk to everybody below you like you could. You don't have colleagues that rank the same of you that you can have some
Yeah.
conversations with, and there's a lot more things you can't share or that you have to be careful about. And then you go home and you try to share them with your wife, and she loves you and she's supporting you, but really they don't fully understand either because they're not in it every day. And so it can be a very lonely, stressful job. How do you cope? How do you cope with that, Thad?
Oh wow, that's a question. That's definitely a question when we think about coping, man. I center around the idea of where we can be effective, and how we're helping people grow. And
Okay.
I find enjoyment when we have someone that we've brought up through the ranks, and that's been very successful for our business, and we've helped grow their career. And when I think about when things get tough, right? Whether it's business or whether it's revenue, or, in our business and job advertising and recruiting, there've been a lot of layoffs over the last couple of years, and,
Mhm.
and for our business, not to
Mhm.
sugarcoat it. And it's tough and it's hard because you are affecting the livelihood of so many people when you make those decisions
Big time. Big time.
for survival, and it's tough. And so what I generally do is I reflect on the positive side, because you can't, if you reflect on the negative side, you just get entirely sucked in. And I think that is the biggest muscle that as leaders is we have to ensure that we are constantly um, even reminding uh, internally of there's another there's another side of this. Here's the positive momentum. If you think about it, as leaders, we spend all of our time sharing the positive momentum of our business to get people to go, right, and get people motivated to grow, to do all the things we want them to do to be successful. We also have to do that internally. And if we don't, then that's
Mm.
when you get
Yep.
sucked into a very dark place. And
Yep.
it's okay to pump yourself up, right? It's okay to reflect on all the good you've done, even though, you may be in a dark place, or you may have to make some decisions that, are impacting lives of, of people. And so that's the biggest thing, is I reflect on the good, diminish the bad, and learn from all of your decisions throughout the
I
processes.
would, a couple of things I'd add to that would be, the first time I made C-level, I got promoted to the CEO spot of a $40 million apparel company in the fall of '08,
Oh wow.
which was not a great time. So and the company was in free fall. And the only reason I got promoted is because the entire leadership team got whacked by the owners because the company was failing, and I got promoted, and I definitely was not ready and was not qualified. But one of the things I learned during all the rifts and the layoffs, because we let off like 40 or 45 people or something like that. I remember, I'll never forget the day we just, the line of boxes, they're loading their boxes, and one by one, they're just going out the building. I remember telling my wife, I was like, okay, I got to be careful not to get so jaded that I don't feel it. Like I always want to feel it. I always want
Mhm.
to have an emotional, I want to have some sort of emotional reaction, because if I start losing all of my emotional reaction, then I'm losing that human element. I don't want it to get me down for weeks at a time, but I do want to have that human touch around what's happening to folks. And the other thing I'll just say is the one thing I always tell people, all the layoffs and everybody I've fired or laid off over the years, which has been more than I want to talk about, but I always tell them, I'm like, look, you will land something else.
Mhm.
You will bounce back from it. You're very likely to end up in a better spot, quite frankly. Um, unless you just go home and sit on the couch and eat potato chips and feel sorry for yourself for the next 3 months. As long as you don't do that, you're gonna be all
Yeah.
right. Like you're gonna be all right. I know it sucks right now, but you're gonna be okay. And almost everybody, I've never found out that I laid somebody off and they ended up homeless for the rest of their lives, and they always land somewhere. And I that's how I try to get past it. Thank you for sharing all of that. I want to talk about two more things before we go here in the last few minutes. First, let's give a Talroo overview. So let's have you give the elevator pitch. And by the way, it's TALROO.com, Talroo. And I'd like for you to just give the elevator pitch, and then I want to ask you about AI and technology and how it's affecting our lives. But go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we think about Talroo. We power jobs2careers.com, which is one of the top job search engines, which is how I started here. And what we did was we opened up our technology a number of years ago to power job searching and job matching across different job sites. And the
Okay.
whole idea was, could you use our platform to reach talent audiences that you weren't otherwise reaching through Indeed and other job search engines? And so the whole idea was to use more of the platform and the technology to be able to reach talent audiences in a different way. And it's in a similar way in which, if you think about, Ford, when Ford is looking to advertise to folks that are looking to buy a truck, they don't go and say, "Hey, I want to buy a banner ad on yahoo.com." First off, who goes to yahoo.com anymore? People still do, but it's not like a brand that people recognize as. So what they do is Ford says, I want to advertise my F-150 ads to people that could be in market to buy a truck.
Okay.
And so then Ford, you know, places the ads. And so if you think about in talent acquisition and recruiting today and job searching, all of that's very like, I'm going to post my ad someplace,
Uh-huh.
right, on a destination. And our
Yes.
thesis is it's about the audiences, and who cares where the audiences are.
Mm.
Just find me the audiences that are productive, that are qualified, and that will apply for my job. And that's what the Tower Ad platform does today. And it helps really talent acquisition leaders, businesses take more of a marketing approach to advertising jobs and talent acquisition.
Is your customer companies or recruiting firms or both?
Companies and recruiting firms. Yep.
Okay.
And
And
through jobs to careers, we reach job seekers.
okay. All right. So I own a recruiting firm, Riderflex. So if I used your platform, would you be my central point of contact? I just say, I have a new job here. Boom. Do what you need to do with it. I don't have to post it on. I don't have to go over to Indeed or LinkedIn or Monster. I don't have to do all this other stuff. I just give it to you and it's taken care of.
Uh, well, the one thing I would say yes, but the key to that is we may not have access to some of the talent pools you may want to use. So
I
that's
see. I see.
that's the that's the
What do
differentiation
you
when you
have
think about it.
access to?
Because
What do you have access to and not have access to? Can you share?
we power 1 billion job searches a month. And so what you would do is when we onboard you would say, I don't want you to buy on Indeed. I don't want you to buy on Monster, but you can buy it everywhere else. And then our system would go out and
I
the
see.
sites that we power, we would drive
I
you
see.
candidates directly into your ATS.
I see. And all
That's
right.
that's our current product. It's mainly built for, I would say, mid market and enterprise companies.
Okay.
We've launched a new product that is leveraging generative AI in many ways. That's built
Okay.
for small businesses and medium-sized businesses, and that product is Ready Set Hire, and that's a pretty exciting product that we just launched a few months ago, and that is allowing small businesses to use generative AI to actually create a job. It uses a chat-based apply process. All of that's built into the platform. So, Talroo is really built for more enterprise,
Okay.
mid-market companies that already have an applicant tracking system. Ready, Set, Hire can be the applicant tracking system that you could use, and the process that you can use to attract talent.
Is that a separate website, Ready Set Hire?
Ready, Set, Hire is a separate, and that is a job seeker component as well, and more of a B2B product subscription, for posting jobs and to writing jobs and to interview,
Okay.
and to qualify
All right.
candidates.
So let me make sure I understand. If I own a company, if I own a $40 million apparel firm, I can work with your team. You can blast my jobs out there. People will apply, and then you'll shovel them into my whatever ATS I use.
That's right. That's right. And we will use the data to understand what places are productive,
I see.
as an application is submitted. So we will use that signal to say, all right,
Okay.
this placement is great, bid up. This placement is not, bid down, so that you're
Okay.
more efficient in how you advertise jobs.
Can I say, look, I want to spend $500 a month on this particular job. You decide where to spend it, whether that's Indeed or whatever.
That's right.
I see. And you'll call me and say, hey, bro, I think you need to up your budget over here because of this or that because of the data.
Probably, yes.
All right. All right. All right. Sounds good. Okay. Very good. Thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah.
Best thing for people to do is just go to talroo.com. Is that and then
Yeah, that's right.
okay. All right, very good. And you got the social channels, you got some YouTube videos going, which I like. You got those testimonials I saw, which are pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I was watching those while I was on the treadmill this morning.
Oh, great.
That's good stuff. Okay, thank you for sharing all of that, Thad. We got a few minutes left. We're recording this on, like I said, September 19th, 2024. Now, you seem like a super smart guy, and I'm just guessing you are watching the AI and the large language models and the technology, and you're watching it and staying. Well, you're already using it, so I'm assuming your team is paying very close attention to everything that's going on right now, right? And you're like, okay. At first you're probably thinking, holy shit, this might put us out of business. And then your second thought is probably like, no. Let's use this to our advantage and crush the competition, right? That's what I mean, I'm kind of joking, but I almost feel like every business owner went through that little exercise. Not every, but a lot of us, like we
Yeah.
used Chat GPT 4 for the first time and we're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
Yeah.
this is, I'm worried. and then we're like, okay, let me just take a deep breath, figure this shit out. How do I implement? How do I implement? How do I pivot? How do I change? How do I adapt to make my team stronger, faster, more efficient, and stay ahead of the curve? So there was a question in there somewhere. I think my question is, how are you handling this weird, crazy, exciting phase we're in right now with AI? Like what
How we
talk to me.
handle, yeah. So I think the first thing is what I see from a lot of businesses is they go all in and they're trying to, boil the ocean, for lack of a better phrase, to try to like figure out how to like, you know, reinvent their business model in many
Okay.
cases.
Okay.
And from our perspective, we think that's not efficient in how we
Okay.
think about it because there's so many considerations there. Um, and so we think about it as a way to be more efficient and effective in adding features to our current product and our current
Okay.
stack, and um, try to leverage this technology to make things easier for people and to improve, you know, what what the functionality is within an application. and how you can be more effective to reach an end conclusion, whatever that may be, right? Whether it's a question on a campaign, or whether it's, am I a fit for this job, or all of these different questions that people are looking for answers. And I think that that's the way to really think about this and learn from it, because I think one of the problems in product development is we go through this process and we're like, all right, we want to completely redesign our system using generative AI without testing any of these, any of these processes along the way. And by then you're 8 months or 9 months into some development cycle, and you've already lost your edge, and you haven't really tested exactly what to do. And so, I was a few years ago, I had the privilege to join in a design thinking workshop in Boston. And it was about when we were looking at rebranding Jobs to Careers to Talroo, and great product development, a great way to think about things and how we think about this idea of design thinking, and how do we apply it to a business. And the great example that they use to kind of drill this in, that I think we can all use, and I always share this even with our product team, I think it's a great story, is that they show this video of a individual, an elderly couple, and this lady is preparing for her card game, her weekly card game. Okay. And of course, the husband is elderly, and he's there just, hey, make sure you get make sure you wipe down the floor correctly, and just like completely just kind of micromanaging this elderly lady's ability to clean her house, ready for all of her girlfriends to come and join at this card game. And they show this video. She's bringing out this bucket full of water that's just gross. She's getting the mop, and she's like taking the mop into this old bucket of water. The mop's strings are all brown and black from like the water, and she's mopping the floors, and she almost slips mopping the floor, and who knows what would happen if that happened. And she's having to climb up in this, she's 75, 80 years old, and she's having to climb up on this chair to clean something else, getting ready for, this weekly card game. And they just show all of the experience that happens when someone's cleaning a house using a mop to clean the floor, and how it's unfortunate, and all the pain that happens when people use a mop to get ready for this weekly card game. And I'm going somewhere with this. And enter the Swiffer. And there's no mop bucket, and there's no dirty strings on the floor left, and there's no slippery experience, and all of this. And the whole deal is that they were saying that the key to what you're trying to solve for with your business is first you got to list all your pain points, all the pain points of your business, and all the pain points that your customers are faced with, that you're trying to solve for through your product and service you're delivering. And what I would encourage people to do when they're thinking about leveraging generative AI is, if you haven't thought about starting with pain points, then you should start there, and then start thinking about how generative AI can help you be more successful at addressing those pain points a little along the way, right? However, there's a caveat to this. What this professor was sharing was, imagine if you didn't reinvent the mop with Swiffer. Imagine if you just made it microfiber. Imagine if you just create a better wringer for the water than then you'd have a $10 million product, and not a $1 billion product the size of Swiffer, right?
Yeah.
And so the whole idea was like, you can try to solve these pain points one at a time. So and maybe that's worth millions of dollars, but it sure isn't worth billions of dollars. If you create your own category, it's worth billions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And so my advice would be try to test, where you think before you go all in, because you need some data to be able to make a larger decision. And maybe you don't have the resources to go all in, but you got to go all in sometime, but you can't go all in until until you know what problems you're solving.
Good stuff. Great story. Really appreciate you sharing that. That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. Awesome. Man, I could talk to you about AI for another hour on how it relates. Let me one last question. Are the candidate robots talking to the company robots now? It's almost there, right? The candidates are using
It's there.
lazy apply, and I don't know, there's several things now that will just apply, just automatically apply for you, right? I was telling my wife the other day, I'm like, man, it's really bad right now, because the candidate robots are talking to the client robots, basically.
No, you're right. I think you're right. I think that the human connection is still what's so important in hiring. And I think as a candidate and as an employer, we have to celebrate that human connection. I'll tell you, one of the top ways that we hear from employers that they hire is something so old and that has been around since the beginning of time, as humans, and that is hiring events. Hiring events, because you're actually getting people to sign up, to show up. And part of the key with recruiting now is getting people to show up and to forge a human connection, right?
That's great.
And it's interesting to me to hear that, hiring events of all things are now so important for businesses because of that human connection. And it's interesting. Yeah.
It's a good tip. Crazy world we're living in. Sounds like you're adapting and pivoting and changing and staying on top of things like you need to. Congratulations, man. Great career. I mean, really.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, Steve.
Yeah. Great career. Congratulations on everything you guys are building. Talroo, TALROO.com, talroo.com. Thanks, Dad. I really appreciate it, sir. Great stuff.
Yeah. Thank you.